In Umuaku, a quiet village resting between the hills and the red dust roads. This is not a tale of laughter. No, it is a tale of hunger, love, and the dangerous beauty of desire. It is the story of Adaze, Chinaza, and Ifunanya, three women whose hearts burned for riches like fire in dry grass. In Umuaku, the mornings smelled of palm oil and firewood. Children ran barefoot through red dust, mothers shouted at goats, fathers wiped sweat from their brows. The sun was no friend, and money was a rumor. But still, the people lived humble, tired, and full of dreams. Adaze was tall, chocolate-skinned, with eyes like wet clay and lips that always trembled with thought. Her mother, Mama Neka, sold pap and akara beside the old road, while Adaze helped after school. Her boyfriend, Chike, was a carpenter, strong arms, but empty pockets. Sometimes, he would whisper, "My Adaze, one day, I go build you house." And Adaze would smile sadly. "One day is too far, Chike. Hunger does not wait." Chinaza lived near the stream. Her father was a palm wine tapper, climbing trees before dawn. She was fair like palm wine froth, and her laughter could charm even the old men who drank from the calabash. Her boyfriend, Ebuka, was a motorcycle rider. His bike was old and coughed like an old man, but he rode it with pride. Sometimes, when the moon was high, he carried her behind him to the market square, and they would talk of love that the poor cannot afford. Ifunanya's home was by the marketplace. She was full-bodied, with skin dark as midnight yam and hips that spoke a woman's language. Her parents were sickly, coughing in the night while she sold gari and pepper to feed them. Her boyfriend, Obina, was a cassava grinder, his hands always white with dust. He loved her deeply, but love could not buy drugs for her parents. Days turned into weeks, and hunger sat in every house like an uninvited guest. The girls went to school, but their sandals were torn, their uniforms faded, and their stomachs empty. Neighbors helped sometimes with small food, a handful of rice, a few cubes of Maggi, but often, even the neighbors had nothing to share. When rain fell, their mothers prayed not for harvest, but for hope. Their boyfriends tried, oh, they tried. Chike worked from dawn till night, but earned barely enough for his own food. Ebuka carried passengers all day, only to spend his money repairing his old motorbike. Obina ground cassava till his palms cracked. Each man promised his woman, "Tomorrow will be better." But tomorrow never came. One evening, when the sun melted into the forest, the three women met under the big mango tree behind the primary school. They were tired of waiting, of hoping, of suffering. Adaze said softly, "My sisters, I cannot die in this village. My dreams are choking." Chinaza nodded. "Even my father's palm trees are tired of my tears." Ifunanya whispered, "The city, they say Lagos is a place where people pick money from the floor." They looked at each other and the seed of a dangerous decision was planted. That night, the moon watched them secretly. They joined hands under the mango tree and swore, "Is greater than by the spirit of the land, by the ancestors who hear us. We shall go to the city and become rich. We shall wear gold, drive cars, and make our enemies bow." Their voices shook the night air. In that moment, poverty became their enemy, and the city became their god. The wind whispered through the trees, "Be careful what you chase, for not all that shines is blessing." In the small mud house near the road, Adaze sat before her mother. The lamp flickered weakly, throwing long shadows on the cracked wall. "Is greater than Mama," Adaze said softly. "I am leaving for Lagos. I can't stay here and die poor." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "My daughter, the city is not a place for soft hearts. It can swallow people whole." Adaze took her mother's hands, rough from years of akara frying. "Mama, I will make you proud. I will build you a house with zinc roof. You will not sell akara again." The old woman sighed deeply. "Go then, but do not forget your name. And remember, money without peace is shame." Down by the stream, Chinaza stood before her father, the palm wine tapper. His face was old and lined like a dry leaf. He leaned on his tapping pole and said, "My daughter, I have no gold to give you, only my blessing." Chinaza wiped her tears. "Papa, Blessing cannot pay school fees. I must go. He looked at her, his eyes tired. If your path in Lagos becomes heavy, remember this. The city can blind a person's spirit. Chinaza hugged him tightly. His sweat smelled of palm wine and sorrow. In her small room behind the market, Ifunanya's mother lay coughing on a mat. Mama, she whispered, I will go to Lagos. I will send money for your medicine. Her mother's voice trembled. My child, do not sell your soul to buy comfort. But Ifanya's eyes were already hard. Mama, poverty has already sold it for me. The old woman turned her face to the wall and wept silently as her daughter packed her small nylon bag. When the news spread, the boyfriends came one by one, hearts full of pain. Chike ran to Adaize's house, his clothes covered in sawdust. Adaize, please, don't go. I'm working on a contract. Soon, things will change. She looked at him sadly. Chike, love cannot cook soup. Ibuka came next to Chinaza's home, kneeling before her. If you go to Lagos, you'll forget me. She touched his cheek. If I stay, hunger will kill me before I remember you. And Obinna, poor Obinna, held Ifunanya's hand. Ifi, I have nothing but my love. She pulled away. Love does not pay rent, Obinna. The next morning, the whole village seemed to pause. The rooster crowed thrice. The sun rose with pride, and 3 women stood by the dusty road with small bags. Each wore her best wrapper, Adaize in blue lace, Chinaza in yellow, Ankara, Ifunanya in red and black stripes. Their hair glistened with coconut oil. Their faces held fear and hope. They hugged their mothers, waved at a few friends, and climbed into a rusted bus marked Eastern Express to Lagos. The engine coughed and roared to life. As the bus moved away, the dust rose high, covering the tears on their faces. The road was long and rough. They passed forests, markets, and endless stretches of red earth. At every stop, hawkers shouted, Gala, pure water, Boli, groundnut. The women barely spoke, their hearts beat fast. When the night came, they watched the moon follow the bus, like an ancestor keeping silent watch. Adaize whispered, We have left everything behind. Ifunanya answered, We will not look back. By dawn, they entered Lagos, the city that never sleeps. Horns blared, voices shouted, Okada zipped through traffic. They stared in amazement. Tall buildings, flashing lights, men in suits, women with wigs longer than rivers. The smell of roasted corn mixed with petrol fumes. Ah, so this is Lagos, Chinaza breathed. Ifunanya smiled faintly. Here, money lives. We just have to find it. But Adaize, quiet as ever, looked around and murmured, and maybe lose ourselves in the process. They found a small room in a crowded compound in Ajigunle. 1 mattress, 1 candle, and a small window. Rats squeaked, babies cried, and generators hummed like angry spirits. They shared bread and sachet water for dinner. Tomorrow, Adia said, we will start searching for work. But the city does not give jobs to hungry strangers. They slept holding hands, whispering prayers to the same God who seemed far away. A week passed. No job, no food. One afternoon, they met a woman named Madame Stella, tall, light-skinned, with gold bangles that jingled like tiny bells. She stepped out of a shiny car and looked at them with knowing eyes. Is greater than, you girls look hungry, she said sweetly. I can help you make money. Real money. Ifunanya's eyes lit up. Chinaza hesitated. Adaize's heart beat fast. What kind of work, madam? Adaize asked carefully. Madame Stella smiled a slow, dangerous smile. The kind that turns poor girls into queens. Under the shade of a half-broken umbrella in Balagun Market, Madame Stella stood before them, her perfume heavy, her nails red like hibiscus petals. You 3 remind me of myself when I came to this city, she said, smiling like a cat. She spoke softly, but every word glimmered with promise. If you follow my way, you will wear gold, drive cars, live in air-conditioned houses. No more hunger. Adaize looked at her with suspicion. Chinaza bit her lip, but Ifunya's eyes were already shining. That night, they followed Madame Stella to her house in Sur-L'air, a mansion with marble tiles and mirrors taller than doors. Inside, everything sparkled. Glass tables, white leather chairs, and chandeliers that threw stars on the ceiling. Madame Stella poured them juice from bottles they had never seen before. "Relax, my daughters," she said. "You are safe here." Then she explained her business, young women who entertained rich men and got paid more than bankers. Adeze shivered, Chinaza trembled, but Ifunya laughed softly. "So, this is how people make money in Lagos," she said. Madame Stella nodded, her gold earrings swaying. "In this city, beauty is a market. Use it before it fades." The next evening, they were dressed in glittering gowns, their faces painted, their hearts pounding. Expensive perfumes masked their fear. Madame Stella took them to a club, loud music, flashing lights, men throwing money like leaves. That night, Adeze cried in the bathroom. Chinaza stared blankly at her reflection, and Ifunanya counted her first bundle of naira with trembling hands. It was the night their innocence died quietly. Weeks passed, and the girls changed. Adeze bought her first phone. Chinaza got new wigs. Ifunanya moved like a queen. They pooled their money and rented a flat in Lekki. On the front gate, Ifunanya painted in gold letters, "Med Doings Villa." The name came from their initials, M for Madame Stella's nickname for them, ED for extraordinary daughters. They wanted the world to know that they had arrived. Soon, the girls were seen everywhere. Parties, hotels, photo shoots. They wore lace gowns that glowed under the sun, high heels that clicked like power, and jewelry that blinded eyes. Adeze bought a red car, Chinaza opened a small boutique, Ifunanya began calling herself Madame Meddoings. Everywhere they went, cameras followed. The neighbors whispered, "See those village girls? Now they shine like Lagos lights." But behind the smiles, emptiness began to grow slow, quiet, poisonous. One night, Adeze sat alone on her expensive bed, her face washed clean of makeup. She held a picture of Chike, her carpenter lover from Umuaku. "Is greater than, forgive me," she whispered, "but hunger pushed me here." Tears rolled down and stained the silk sheet embroidered with Med doings. Outside, cars roared and laughter echoed. But Adeze's room smelled of regret. Chinaza's boutique became famous. Women came to buy perfumes and handbags, but her smile was a mask. The rich man who funded her business stopped calling. Debts started growing like weeds. At night, she sat by the mirror, painting her lips again and again, whispering, "Is greater than just one more client, one more night, then I'll stop." But the city never lets go of those it feeds. Ifunanya rose the highest. She became a companion to politicians, her pictures in magazines, her laughter filling hotel halls. She drove cars with Med doings engraved on the number plates, her gait, even her pillowcases. Her body sparkled with gold. Her house smelled of imported roses. But her heart was iron. She no longer visited home, no longer answered calls from her sick mother. "The past is poor," she would say. "I live for today." Then, slowly, the city began to turn. Madame Stella was arrested in a scandal involving politicians. Her girls scattered. Adeze's sponsor disappeared abroad. Chinaza's boutique was sealed for debt. Ifunanya's name began to appear in gossip papers, Med doings queen linked to corruption case. The once gold letters on their gate began to fade. The wind that once carried laughter now carried whispers. And the same city that had raised them began to spit them out. The morning after Madame Stella's arrest, Adeze woke to silence. Her phone no longer rang. The man who paid her rent had blocked her number. Bills piled like dry leaves on her table. She walked to the mirror and saw not the Queen of Lagos, but a tired village girl covered in makeup and sorrow. She whispered to her reflection, "Is greater than, is this the wealth I chased?" Outside, her red car stood still, the word MED, doings dull with dust. Chinaza sat on the floor of her boutique, counting coins that could not buy even a loaf of bread. The landlord came banging. "Is greater than madam, pay your rent or pack out." Her hands trembled. The once bright shop smelled of sweat and dust. She looked at the mirror and saw the same fair face that once drew men's attention. But the light in her eyes had died. "Maybe I should go back home," she whispered, her voice shaking. But pride held her down like a heavy chain. Ifunanya still had her mansion, her cars, her perfumes, but her name was now poison. People whispered when she passed. Politicians stopped calling. Her picture was in the newspapers, under the headline, "Is greater than Meddoing's queen under investigation." She slammed the paper on her marble table. "Let them talk! I made myself!" she shouted. But that night, alone on her bed, she felt her heart pounding like a drum. Money filled her house, but peace had packed and left. The three women tried to meet again to comfort one another. They gathered at Adeze's flat, now half empty. There was no laughter, only silence. Ifunanya forced a smile. "Is greater than we just need to rise again," she said. Adeze sighed. "Maybe we rose too high, too fast." Chinaza looked away, tears filling her eyes. "We left our souls in Umuaku." They sat in darkness, the generator broken, the city's noise echoing their regrets. A cough began first, gentle, then violent. Adaya's grew thin, her skin lost its glow. Hospitals refused her without deposit. Her mother's number was no longer reachable. She sat one night by the window, watching Lagos lights flicker. "Is greater than, I wanted to shine," she whispered, "but I forgot the sun burns too." She wept until sleep carried her like a tired leaf. Chinaza's boutique was seized. With nowhere to go, she began sleeping in a friend's one-room apartment. She tried to sell her clothes, her wigs, her shoes, but no one wanted secondhand dreams. One evening, she walked through the same streets she once rode in cars through. The men who used to call her Queen Meddoings now pretended not to see her. The same city that praised her beauty now ignored her hunger. Ifunanya stayed alone in her big house. The walls echoed her footsteps, the mirrors reflected her loneliness. She poured herself wine, staring at the golden letters, Meddoings, carved above her gate. "Is greater than, I built this," she murmured, "but it has become my cage." Then her phone rang. It was her younger brother from Umuaku. "Sister, Mama is gone," he said quietly. The glass fell from her hand and shattered. She sank to her knees, her gold bracelets jingling like chains. "I forgot her," she sobbed. "I forgot the only person who prayed for me." A month later, one after another, they began the journey back to Umuaku. Adeze, weak and pale, with her small bag. Chinaza, quiet, her fine clothes torn. Ifunanya, dressed simply for the first time in years. The bus ride was silent. They stared out the window, watching the forests roll past. No laughter, no dreams, only memories. When they stepped into the village, even the goats stopped chewing. People whispered, "Is that not Adaye's, Chinaza, Ifunanya, the Meddoings women?" Their mothers' houses were smaller than they remembered, their hearts heavier. Adeze fell to her knees before her mother's grave. Chinaza hugged her father and wept like a child. Ifunanya sat under the mango tree where it all began, her tears soaking the soil. The same earth that once carried their dreams now received their regrets. The village of Umuaku had not seen such a sight in years. 3 women who left in lace returning in rags. Old women shook their heads, young girls whispered. "So this is how Lagos ends," one said. The men stared quietly, their eyes filled with both pity and warning. Even the mango tree under which they once made their oath seemed to sigh with the wind. Adeze grew weaker each day. Her mother fed her with watery pap and wiped her forehead with tears. Sometimes Adeze smiled faintly, whispering, "Is greater than Mama, forgive me, I wanted to make you proud." Her mother would hold her hand and say, "You are my child, no matter what the world did to you." One morning, before the sun rose, Adeze took one long, soft breath and joined the ancestors. Her mother wailed, the village mourned, and the wind carried her name like a sad song. Chinaza lived, but her heart was shattered. She went to the church one evening and knelt before the altar, trembling. "Lord," she cried, I wanted gold, but I found sorrow. I wanted respect, but I lost myself. The priest placed a hand on her shoulder. My daughter, repentance is the true wealth. Begin again. From that day, she began to help women in the village washing clothes, fetching water, anything honest. But though her heart healed, the scars of shame remained. Ifunanya could not sleep. Everywhere she turned, she saw her mother's face gentle, forgiving, gone. She sat under the mango tree every evening, staring into the horizon. Children would pass and whisper, "Is greater than that is Ifunanya, the one who forgot her mother." Her once bright eyes dimmed. She no longer wore gold, her hands were bare. Even the bangles that once sang of pride now rusted in her box. Ifunanya dreamt of her mother standing in a field of white sand, her voice soft as rain. "Is greater than my daughter," the spirit said. "Wealth without peace is a curse. You chased shadows, and they have chased you back." Ifunanya woke trembling, tears wetting her pillow. From that night, she stopped speaking of the city. She became quiet like a river before dawn. A trader from Lagos came one day, recognizing Chinaza at the market. "Is greater than, aha, the Meddoing's queen," he said mockingly. She smiled faintly. "Yes, I was. But now I am just Chinaza, a woman who knows the cost of pride." She sold him vegetables and used the money to buy soap for a Daisy's mother. That evening, she washed the old woman's feet, whispering prayers of peace. Her beauty returned, not in face, but in spirit. Weeks later, Ifunanya's strength failed. She walked slowly to the mango tree, her old scarf tied loosely around her head. There, she sat where their journey began, under the same leaves, on the same earth. The wind blew gently through her hair as she whispered, "Is greater than Meddoing's. We thought we owned the world, but the world owned us." As the evening sun melted into red, she closed her eyes. The villagers found her there, peaceful, her lips curved in a sad smile. Ifunya had gone to join her mother. He looks around at the faces of the listeners, wide-eyed children, silent mothers, thoughtful fathers. He lifts his hand and says, "Is greater than my children. The road to the city is wide, but not every traveler returns whole. The gold you chase may shine today and turn to dust tomorrow." Remember the three women of Meddoing's, Adaize, Chinaza, and Ifunanya, who lost everything in the search for more. The crowd nods slowly. The night listens. The wind passes through the trees like a sigh. The moon hides behind a cloud, and somewhere, a mother's heart trembles for her daughter. "Is greater than children," the storyteller says softly. "Riches without wisdom are chains made of gold. The city can clothe you in silk, but strip your soul bare. Be content with honest labor, for a little with peace is better than plenty with pain."